My friends, there will come a time when the sky will grow dark above you. The winds of doubt will howl, the rains of fear will fall, and the thunder of trial will shake your very bones. But hear me now, the storm is not sent to destroy you. The storm is sent to reveal you. For what are we, if not the sum of our storms? It is not the calm that teaches courage. It is not the sunshine that proves strength. It is the gale, the lightning, the long cold night. These are the teachers that show us what it means to rise. When life knocks you to your knees, don't you dare stay down. Press your palms into the mud of your despair. Lift your head toward the heavens and say, I am still here, still breathing, still believing, still becoming. Each scar is not a shameful mark. It is a medal of endurance. Each tear is not a weakness. It is a baptism of resilience. And every time you stand tall in your storm, you teach the sky that it cannot break you. Walk forward, my friends, even when your feet tremble. Speak your truth, even when your voice shakes. Love louder than the noise of hatred. Dream beyond the horizon of fear. Because one day the storm will tire, the winds will hush, the clouds will part. And there you will stand, unbowed, unbroken, and unbelievably beautiful. A living testament to the power of the human spirit. There comes a moment in every life when the gentle rhythm of ordinary days is interrupted by the sound of breaking. It may be the loss of a loved one, the collapse of a dream, or the betrayal of trust. It may arrive silently in the form of loneliness or loudly as the roar of failure. However it comes, adversity is the great interrupter, the force that bends the proud and tests the faithful. And though it often feels cruel in its arrival, it carries within it a sacred assignment to reveal the strength we did not know we possessed. For strength is not learned in ease. Strength is discovered in resistance, refined in struggle, and proven in survival. When life's storms gather above our heads, we are often tempted to believe that they come to destroy us. We cry out for rescue, for escape, for a path untouched by pain. But storms do not only dismantle, they also define. The wind that bends the tree is the same wind that deepens its roots. The rain that floods the ground also feeds the seed beneath it. So too the storms that enter our lives strip away what is shallow and fragile, leaving only what is deep and true. They remind us that strength is not a possession we are handed, but a power we awaken through endurance. The soul learns its weight when it must carry what it never imagined it could. It is in the quiet aftermath of hardship that we begin to see the miracle of resilience. You may not notice it at first. The way your heart still beats after heartbreak. The way your spirit still reaches for light after the night has fallen thick around you. You may mistake survival for weakness, when in truth it is the first sign of courage. To keep standing, even when you tremble, to keep walking, even when your path is uncertain. This is strength in motion. Strength is not a shout, it is the steady whisper of persistence that says, I will not be undone. It is the rhythm of breathing when all seems lost, the decision to rise one more time, and then another. Adversity has a strange way of introducing us to our truest selves. When all the comforts fall away, when the masks we wear no longer hold, we come face to face with the core of who we are. The person we meet there may surprise us, quieter, perhaps, but fiercer, wounded, yes, but wiser. Strength often appears not as thunder, but as a calm resolve. It is the moment you stop running from the storm and begin to walk through it with open eyes. You learn that peace is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of purpose. You begin to understand that pain, while never welcome, can be a teacher, and that every lesson it brings is written in the ink of endurance. Some of the strongest souls this world has ever known were not born in palaces of ease, but in valleys of trial. They have known hunger, rejection, humiliation, and loss. Yet from those ashes they rose radiant. They learned to turn wounds into wisdom, burdens into blessings, and obstacles into openings. What makes them stand tall is not that life spared them, but that life tested them, and they answered the test with grace. Every scar they bear speaks not of defeat, but of deliverance. Each wrinkle carved by worry holds a story of survival. Such people walk among us as living testimonies to the truth that adversity reveals, refines, and reawakens the strength within. So when the next storm finds you, and it will, do not curse the wind or hide from the rain. Lift your chin to the sky and remember, this too is part of your becoming. Every drop that falls upon you is washing away what no longer serves your journey. Every gust that pushes against you is shaping your stance, making your spine a pillar of endurance. You are not being undone, you are being unveiled. The strength you seek is already within you, waiting to be called forth. Adversity is merely the echo that summons it, the sacred reminder that, even in the fiercest storm, you are capable of standing tall. Courage is a quiet flame that does not appear in the soft hours of ease. It is not born when the path is smooth or the sun is kind. Courage is conceived in darkness, in the silence of uncertainty, in the trembling before the unknown. It is born when the heart quivers but refuses to quit. Many speak of courage as if it were a grand, shining act, a single moment of triumph. But real courage is not always loud. It does not always march or roar. Often it whispers. It whispers, keep going. It murmurs, try again. And in that whisper lies the strength to rise one more time after every fall. When hardship comes, and it always does, it does not ask for permission, nor does it wait for readiness. It simply arrives, and it arrives to test what we claim to believe about ourselves. It shakes the ground beneath our feet, takes from us what we thought we could not live without, and dares us to continue walking anyway. This is where courage steps forward not as a grand declaration, but as a necessity. You see, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move through fear, to take the next breath even when the air feels heavy with doubt. Hardship calls forth this courage, because only through struggle can the soul learn how vast its strength truly is. There are moments in life when courage wears the face of defiance, the steady gaze that meets injustice and says, "You will not have the last word." But there are also moments when courage looks like quiet endurance. The single mother who rises before dawn, the student who studies by candlelight, the weary soul who chooses to forgive. Hardship reveals the many faces of courage. It shows us that bravery does not always come clothed in victory. Sometimes it comes wrapped in tears. Yet those tears, shed in truth and perseverance, shine brighter than any metal. They are the visible proof that the spirit, though shaken, is still standing. Hardship refines courage by stripping it of illusion. When life is easy, we may mistake comfort for confidence. But when the storm rages, we discover that courage is not built on comfort. It is built on conviction. Conviction that life has meaning even when it hurts. Conviction that we are capable even when we doubt. Conviction that the storm will not last forever, even if we cannot yet see the clearing sky. This conviction becomes the anchor that steadies us when the waves threaten to pull us under. It reminds us that courage is not something we summon from the outside world. It is something we awaken from within ourselves, where the flame never fully dies. Hardship also teaches us that courage is not an individual triumph but a shared inheritance. The courage to rise has been passed down through generations, from those who endured wars, injustice, and loss to those who now stand on their shoulders. Their struggles paved the road upon which we now walk. When we summon courage in our own storms, we honor them. We continue their unfinished songs of endurance and hope. The same spirit that sustained them sustains us still, reminding us that courage is not only a personal act of bravery, but a contribution to the greater human story. Every time one of us stands tall in adversity, we make it easier for another to believe that they too can rise. There is a sacred power that comes when we choose courage in the midst of hardship. It transforms suffering into purpose and pain into progress. When we stand tall despite trembling, the storm loses its grip on us. The world watches, and perhaps even the heavens pause, for courage has a way of awakening light in places long forgotten. It tells the soul, you are not defined by what breaks you, but by what you build after the breaking. It tells the storm, you may shake me, but you will not silence me. And in that declaration, courage takes root, not as a fleeting emotion, but as a living truth, born in hardship, sustained by faith, and destined to endure. Resilience is the quiet sanctity of the human spirit. It is the holy ground upon which we stand when everything else has fallen away. To be resilient is not simply to endure but to transform. To take the pain meant to bury us and use it to grow roots instead. Resilience is the art of bending without breaking, of breathing through the weight of sorrow, of saying, I will not give up on myself. It is sacred because it cannot be taught by comfort or convenience. It is learned in the crucible of struggle, in the moments when we are stripped bare of certainty and must reach into the invisible strength within. The sacredness of resilience lies in this mystery. We do not find it until life demands it, and once it awakens, we are never the same again. There are those who mistake resilience for hardness, but the two are not the same. Hardness closes, resilience opens. Hardness resists the storm, resilience dances with it. Hardness hides the wound, resilience honors it and keeps moving forward. True resilience is tender, not tough. It feels deeply, it weeps freely, and still it rises. It carries grace in its endurance and dignity in its scars. The resilient soul knows that life is not about avoiding pain, but about carrying it wisely. It learns to cradle its heartbreak the way a mother cradles her child. Gently, with understanding, with patience for the time it takes to heal. Resilience does not deny the storm. It acknowledges it, walks through it, and emerges holding fragments of light. In the long, dark nights when despair tries to claim us, resilience is the quiet companion that refuses to leave our side. It speaks in the language of persistence, the decision to wake up, to try again, to keep breathing even when the air feels thin. Some days, resilience looks like grand acts of courage, but more often, it looks like small choices rising from bed when the world feels heavy, offering kindness when bitterness would be easier, or believing in tomorrow when today feels unbearable. These small choices, repeated day after day, weave the invisible fabric of strength that holds us together. Resilience is not an instant victory, it is a slow, sacred becoming, a journey of faith disguised as endurance. The sacred nature of resilience also lies in its quiet humility. It does not seek applause or attention. It does not demand recognition for the miles it has walked or the tears it has shed. It simply continues, quietly, faithfully, purposefully. It understands that healing is not a race, that recovery does not follow a straight line, and that progress often hides behind pain. In the stillness of patience, resilience learns to trust time. It knows that some wounds close slowly, not because we are weak, but because the lesson they carry must sink deep before it can be released. There is holiness in that waiting, in that gradual unfurling of strength. Every step, every stumble, every small rise becomes part of a sacred rhythm. The song of survival sung in the key of hope. To live resiliently is to be in conversation with life itself. It is to look at hardship and say, "You will not define me, but I will learn from you." It is to walk through fire and carry embers of wisdom back from the flames. Resilience does not erase the memory of suffering, but it transforms the meaning of it. What once hurt becomes what now teaches. What once felt like punishment becomes preparation. The resilient heart learns to see beauty, not as the absence of scars, but as the radiance that shines through them. It finds meaning in the struggle, and in that meaning it finds peace. There is something sacred about that peace. the kind that is not born of perfection but of perseverance. And so, resilience stands as a testament, not only to what we have survived, but to what we continue to believe in. It is the quiet faith that refuses to fade, the flame that flickers but never dies. Resilience does not shout, but it does shine. It shines in the faces of those who have been broken and yet remain kind. It shines in the eyes of those who have lost everything and yet still look toward the horizon. It shines in the hearts of those who carry sorrow but continue to love. This is why resilience is sacred, because it honors both the pain and the possibility of being human. It stands as a reminder that no matter how fierce the storm, there exists within us a divine capacity to endure, to rise, and to begin again. Faith is the invisible bridge stretched between despair and deliverance. It is the unseen hand that steadies us when the ground beneath begins to crumble. When the storm howls and the light grows dim, faith is what keeps us walking, one trembling step at a time. Even when we cannot see the road ahead, faith is not blind, it is bold. It is the quiet assurance that there is meaning beyond the moment, that every trial is shaping something sacred within us. In the heart of chaos, faith whispers, "Hold on." It does not promise the absence of struggle, it promises the strength to endure it. It is the pulse that beats beneath fear, the small, unbreakable thread that connects the broken heart to the horizon of hope. Faith is often misunderstood as certainty, but certainty is easy. It lives in the sunlight of answers. Faith, on the other hand, lives in the shadow of questions. It breathes in the spaces where logic fails, where reason ends, and where only trust remains. It is standing still in the storm, soaked to the bone, whispering to yourself that the sun will rise again, not because you can see it, but because you believe it must. That belief is a light no storm can extinguish. It is what keeps the weary from collapsing, what turns pain into prayer and silence into song. Faith is not an escape from the storm. It is the courage to stand in it with your eyes open and your heart unafraid. There are moments when faith feels fragile, when prayers go unanswered, when hope thins to a thread, when the night stretches longer than we can bear. But even in those moments, faith does not disappear. It only grows quiet. It becomes the soft hum beneath our sorrow, the steady breath beneath our breaking. Faith is not always triumphant. Sometimes it trembles. It is not always loud. Sometimes it lives in a whisper, in the small decision to keep believing when nothing makes sense. Every time we choose to believe in something greater than our pain, we give faith another chance to rise. Every time we say, "I don't know how, but I will keep going," we invite strength to dwell within us. That is faith at work, unseen but undeniable. Faith also connects us to one another and to the world around us. When one person stands tall in their storm, they remind others that it is possible to endure. Faith, shared or silent, becomes a light passed hand to hand. It says to the weary, "You are not alone in this darkness." Sometimes we borrow faith from others when ours runs low. A kind word, a shared story, a steady hand. These are the vessels through which faith flows from heart to heart. No one walks through life untouched by struggle, but those who hold on to faith become living beacons for those still lost in the wind. The beauty of faith is that it multiplies through compassion. Every act of hope kindles another flame. In times of great trial, faith is both anchor and sail. It grounds us when the waves rise too high and lifts us when the weight of despair grows too heavy. Faith steadies the trembling heart and teaches patience to the restless spirit. It reminds us that waiting is not wasted time, but a sacred preparation. Even when doors close, faith sees corridors unseen. Even when tears fall, faith trusts they will water the soil of new beginnings. The storm may rage longer than we wish, but faith keeps us from surrendering to it. It teaches us that strength does not always roar. Sometimes it simply endures, quietly, steadfastly, with eyes fixed on what cannot yet be seen. Faith sustains because it transforms how we see the world. It does not remove the hardship but reframes it. Where others see endings, faith sees evolution. Where others see emptiness, faith sees possibility. It turns wounds into wisdom, struggles into stories, and pain into purpose. Faith is the voice inside that says, "This is not the end of me." It is the knowing that even in the fiercest storm, something eternal within us refuses to be drowned. When we walk through darkness with faith as our companion, we discover that the light was never gone. It was simply waiting within us, steady and sacred, all along. When the winds of life rise against us, when confusion clouds the path ahead, and when pain rattles the doors of the heart, love and truth become the anchors that keep the soul from drifting. They hold us steady when everything else begins to sway. Love reminds us who we are. Truth reminds us why we are here. Together they form the unbreakable foundation upon which endurance stands. Love softens what hardship hardens, and truth steadies what fear tries to shake. Without these anchors, we are tossed by every storm that passes through our days. But with them, with love in our hearts and truth in our words, we can stand tall even as the winds roar around us. Love is not merely a feeling that warms us in calm seasons. It is a force that sustains us in the tempest. Real love, fierce, patient, and unyielding, is not weakened by trial. It is tested and proven there. Love is the mother who sacrifices her peace for her child's safety, the friend who stays beside you when the world turns its back, the stranger who offers kindness with no expectation of return. Love is not naive, it is courageous. It dares to keep giving when everything else screams to withdraw. It is not blind to pain, but chooses compassion despite it. Love, when it is true, stands as a shield against despair. It whispers to the brokenhearted, "You are seen. You are worthy. You are not alone." It holds the fragments of a shattered life together until the light can reach through again. Truth, too, is an anchor. Not the kind that sinks us into heaviness, but the kind that roots us in authenticity. Truth is the compass that points us back to ourselves when the world tries to twist our reflection. It is the steady voice that says, "This is who I am," even when no one else believes it. Truth does not always bring comfort. Often it brings clarity, and clarity can sting before it heals. But there can be no peace without truth, for peace built on falsehood is fragile and fleeting. The storm of life may scatter our plans and test our convictions, but truth gives us footing. It teaches us to walk honestly, to speak courageously, and to face what is real rather than what is convenient. Truth strips away illusion so that our strength may stand bare, unmasked, and pure. When love and truth meet, they create a power greater than either alone. Love without truth can become blind devotion. Truth without love can become cold judgment. But together, they are balance. Mercy and justice, compassion and conviction, heart and backbone. Love gives truth its warmth, truth gives love its integrity. In the storm, these two do not merely coexist, they work together. Love says, "Forgive," and truth says, "Remember." Love says, "Reach out," and truth says, "Stand firm." They teach us that standing tall is not only about resilience of body, but also about righteousness of spirit, living in a way that aligns with the deepest parts of who we are. The storms of life have a way of revealing what we truly anchor ourselves to. Some hold fast to possessions, some to pride, some to fleeting approval. But these anchors do not hold when the winds turn violent. Only love and truth endure every tide. Love is the rope that binds us to one another, keeping our humanity intact when the world grows cold. Truth is the weight that keeps our ship steady, refusing to let us drift into falsehood or self-deception. In times of turmoil, it is tempting to abandon both, to close our hearts for protection, to bend the truth for ease. Yet every time we do, we lose a little of our grounding. To stand tall in the storm, we must keep these anchors deep in the soul. Love to remind us of connection, and truth to remind us of direction. Love and truth are sacred companions on the journey through chaos. They do not remove the storm, but they teach us how to remain ourselves within it. They remind us that kindness is not weakness and honesty is not cruelty. Love gives us the courage to face the storm with open arms. Truth gives us the clarity to walk through it without losing our way. When all else fails, when strength falters, when plans crumble, when hope seems distant, it is love that keeps the heart alive and truth that keeps it pure. And as long as those two remain within us, no wind, however fierce, can uproot who we truly are. Triumph is not born in the moment of applause. It is forged in the long, unseen hours of endurance. Perseverance is the soul's quiet labor. The decision to keep walking when the road grows steep, to keep pushing when the weight feels unbearable. It is the art of remaining faithful to one's purpose, even when the reward seems distant or invisible. Life does not grant victory easily. The path to triumph winds through valleys of disappointment, mountains of doubt, and rivers of pain. Yet those who persevere, who rise after falling, who try after failing, discover a kind of strength untouched by circumstance. Perseverance transforms effort into evolution, struggle into strength, and endurance into excellence. It teaches that the true measure of success is not how fast we reach the summit, but how steadfastly we climb. There are days when perseverance feels like walking through fog, every step uncertain, every direction unclear. In such moments, the temptation to stop is heavy. The mind whispers, "Why continue?" The heart sighs, "What's the point?" But perseverance answers softly, "Because your journey is not over." It is not blind stubbornness, but sacred determination. The belief that every struggle has meaning, even if it cannot yet be seen. Those who persevere understand that the storm is not a barrier, but a bridge. Each gust of wind, each drop of rain, each flash of lightning reveals another layer of endurance within. Triumph, then, is not the absence of difficulty, but the mastery of it. It is the moment we realize that persistence itself is the victory. The beauty of perseverance lies in its quiet consistency. It does not boast, nor does it rush. It is patient, steady, and deeply faithful to the process of becoming. Perseverance understands that progress is rarely loud, that growth often happens in silence, beneath the surface, like roots deepening in the dark. It knows that every setback carries a seed of renewal, every failure a lesson in disguise. To persevere is to trust the unfolding of time, to believe that what you nurture with endurance will one day bloom. It may take months, years, even decades, but the blossom that grows from perseverance is one that no storm can destroy, because it has learned to bend, to wait, to rise again. Perseverance also demands humility, the understanding that triumph is not always grand or public. Sometimes it looks like getting up after heartbreak. Sometimes it is the quiet decision to forgive. Sometimes it is the courage to keep loving, keep dreaming, keep showing up when the world has given you every reason to quit. Perseverance is not perfection. It is persistence through imperfection. It does not deny fatigue or frustration, but it refuses to surrender to them. It honors effort as sacred, no matter how small the progress may seem. Every step forward, however trembling, is an act of defiance against despair. To persevere is to declare, "I am still here," even when life has tried to write your ending before you are ready. Through perseverance, the soul is refined. Each challenge becomes a chisel that carves away fear, pride, and doubt until only strength remains. The one who perseveres learns patience, not the passive waiting that longs for escape, but the active endurance that finds meaning in the waiting itself. Perseverance teaches that triumph is not about dominating the storm, but about learning to move with it, to find rhythm in its chaos. The one who perseveres does not curse the wind, they listen to it. They let it shape them, not shatter them. And in doing so, they grow into something larger than their pain, a being of endurance, of wisdom, of unshakable grace. Triumph, in its truest form, is not an external crown but an internal awakening. It is the realization that you have endured what once seemed impossible. It is standing on the other side of the storm and recognizing that the person who entered it is not the same as the one who emerged. Perseverance has a way of remaking us, stripping away what was shallow, awakening what was hidden, and revealing what is eternal. The triumph born of perseverance is not merely survival, it is transformation. It is knowing that even in the fiercest storm, something within you refused to bow, refused to fade, refused to stop believing. And that refusal, that sacred, steadfast perseverance, is the heartbeat of triumph itself. And so, my friends, when the storms of life rise against you, as they surely will, do not curse the rain. Let it wash you. Do not fear the wind. Let it teach you how to bend without breaking. Every storm you survive does not diminish you, it defines you. Every challenge you endure is not a punishment, but a passage, a sacred crossing from who you are to who you are meant to be. Remember, this courage will light your path, resilience will keep you upright, faith will steady your heart, love will warm your wounds, and truth will hold your name firm against the wind. These are your anchors. These are your wings. You carry them already within you, even when you forget they are there. There will be days when you will stumble, when tears will fall heavy, when the sky will seem endless in its grayness. But you must rise anyway. Rise with trembling hands if you must. Rise with a cracked voice if you must. Rise because the act of standing itself is a declaration that the storm did not win. That you, fragile yet fierce, wounded yet wise, still believe in the morning. For every storm eventually tires. Every dark sky, no matter how heavy, will one day make room for dawn. And when that dawn comes, as it always does, you will stand in its light, not as the same soul who entered the storm, but as one reborn by it, stronger, softer, wiser, more whole. So stand tall, not because the wind has ceased, but because you have learned to move with it. Stand tall, not because you are unafraid, but because you know fear cannot rule you. Stand tall, not because the world is kind, but because your spirit is unbreakable. And when others see you standing, drenched but determined, scarred but shining, they too will remember that storms are not the end of the story. They are simply the chapters through which we learn how to rise. And together, we will keep rising, again and again, until the sky, in all its vastness, learns the name of our strength.